The soft sound of wind moved through the tall trees outside the city hospital. People walked in and out of the wide glass doors, some alone, some with family beside them. Cars passed slowly on the road as the afternoon sun rested above the buildings. Near the waiting area by the entrance, a young woman sat quietly in a wheelchair. Her name was Lena. Lena was in the late months of her pregnancy. Her rounded belly showed clearly under her light blue dress. One hand rested gently over her stomach, moving slowly in calm circles. The other hand held a small folded paper from the doctor. Her face looked peaceful at first glance, but inside she felt tired from the long day and the slow heavy feeling that pregnancy often brought. Even so, she smiled softly whenever someone passed by. Lena had suffered a leg injury months earlier that made it hard for her to walk. The doctors said she would recover after rest and care. Until then, the wheelchair was her daily support. She did not complain about it. She believed that every challenge came with a reason and that patience made the heart stronger. Her husband Mark had brought her to the hospital for a routine checkup. He helped her into the wheelchair with calm hands and placed her near the entrance where the air felt fresh. Before leaving, he adjusted the small blanket on her lap and bent down to kiss her forehead. "I will be back in a few minutes," he said. "I got an important call from work, but I will not be late." Lena nodded with trust and a warm smile. She never worried when Mark spoke those words. He was a man of his word. He always returned. She watched his car slowly move away from the road until it disappeared behind the trees. The sound of traffic returned to normal, and the busy movement of the hospital continued around her. Nurses walked past in clean uniforms. Patients were guided by family members. A few children laughed as they moved toward the small garden beside the building. Lena stayed calm. She enjoyed observing people. It helped her forget the pressure in her back and the mild pain in her legs. She took slow, deep breaths and listened to the soft noises around her. A short distance away from her, a man in uniform stood near the security gate. His name was Ryan. He worked as a local officer assigned to assist with public safety around the hospital area. It was his shift to watch the entrance and help control traffic. That day, he looked tired. His shift had started early in the morning, and several minor issues had already tested his patience. Ryan was known by his co-workers as someone who followed rules strictly. He believed order was the most important part of his duty. But lately, stress had been building inside him. Personal troubles at home, long work hours, and frequent pressure had made his mind restless. Still, he stood straight and alert in his uniform. As the minutes passed, Ryan noticed Lena sitting alone near the entrance. At first, he did not pay much attention. Many people sat there every day. But after some time, he became uneasy. He was trained to avoid situations where unattended people remained near the gate for too long. His mind began to question whether she was waiting for someone or just staying there without reason. Ryan walked a few steps forward, keeping his voice firm but controlled. "Ma'am," he said, "are you waiting for someone?" Lena looked up at him with calm eyes. "Yes," she replied gently. "My husband went for a short call. He will come back soon." Ryan nodded slowly. His eyes moved from her face to her belly and then to the wheelchair. He felt uncertain. The place had strict rules about loitering near the entrance for a long time due to safety reasons. "How long have you been sitting here?" he asked. "Only a few minutes," Lena said honestly. "I just came out from inside." Ryan looked around. He could not see the husband anywhere. The area was busy. He felt uneasy again. "This area is kept clear most of the time," he said. "You may need to move to the waiting section inside." Lena felt surprised. She touched her belly slowly. "My doctor asked me to get fresh air for a few minutes after my checkup," she said politely. "I cannot move easily on my own. My husband will return soon to help me." Ryan listened, but his stress made him less patient than usual. "Rules are rules," he replied. "I cannot allow anyone to stay here unattended for too long." Lena felt a light heaviness in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "I understand," she said. Please allow me just a few more minutes. I do not feel strong enough right now to move on my own. Ryan sighed quietly. He looked at his watch, then back at her. He was not trying to be unkind, but his tired mind was clouded by pressure. I will wait a little, he said. But not too long. Lena nodded with relief. Thank you. Several more minutes passed. The sun shifted slightly higher in the sky. People continued walking in and out of the building. Still, Mark did not return yet. Ryan looked at his watch again. He felt uneasy. His patience was running low, though he tried to stay professional. Ma'am, he said again with more firmness. Time is passing. I must ask you to move inside now. Lena felt her throat tighten slightly with worry. She looked toward the road hoping to see Mark's car return. But it was not there yet. Please, she said softly. Just a little longer. My husband is on the way. I do not want to push myself while sitting alone in this condition. Ryan hesitated. For a moment, he felt guilt rise in his chest. But his stress pushed him to remain firm. I cannot delay more, he said. You need to follow the instruction. Lena tried to move the wheelchair forward by herself. Her arms trembled slightly as she pushed the wheel. The effort caused light discomfort in her back. She stopped after a few inches and took a slow breath. I cannot move easily, she said, her voice still gentle but now weak. Please allow me a little time. Ryan saw her struggle. His mind became conflicted. On one side were the rules, on the other was a pregnant woman clearly in discomfort. His pressure from work clouded his ability to show full patience. His tone became strict. You should not be left alone here in this state, he said. This is not safe. Lena felt tears build quietly in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She touched her stomach again, as if to steady herself. People around them began to notice the conversation. Some slowed their steps, feeling something tense in the air. At that moment, far down the road, a black car turned the corner and moved toward the hospital entrance. Inside that car sat Mark. Mark was not just an ordinary office worker as most people believed. His work required silence and discipline. His daily routine demanded focus and careful decisions. Very few people knew the true nature of his job. Even Lena only knew that he worked with federal investigations. He kept most details private, not for secrecy but for safety. As Mark drove, his heart felt uneasy. The call he received earlier had been important, but short. As soon as it ended, an unexplainable worry filled his chest. He could not focus on the road without thinking of Lena waiting alone outside. He pressed the speed lightly and guided the car through traffic with careful control. Back at the hospital entrance, the tension between Ryan and Lena was growing silently. Ryan did not raise his voice, but his firm tone felt heavy to Lena in her weak state. She tried once more to move the wheelchair, but her arms felt tired. A woman passing by slowed down and watched closely. A man near the parking area paused as well. The quiet scene began to draw attention. Please, Lena said softly. I am not causing trouble. I just need help to move. Ryan felt his chest tighten. He did not want the situation to look bad in front of others. At the same time, his stress made him rigid. I am only doing my duty, he replied. At that moment, the black car stopped sharply near the entrance. Mark stepped out quickly. His eyes searched the scene at once. The first thing he saw was Lena in her wheelchair with several people stopped around her. His heart skipped a beat. He moved fast toward her, his steps steady but filled with concern. As he came closer, he saw the officer standing in front of her. He sensed the tension in the air without hearing every word. Is everything all right here? Mark asked calmly but with clear concern as he reached Lena's side. Lena looked up at him with relief in her eyes. Mark, she said softly. I was just waiting for you. Mark placed his hand gently on her shoulder and looked at Ryan with steady eyes. I am her husband, he said. Thank you for keeping an eye on her. Ryan looked at Mark for a moment. His posture stayed firm. He did not yet know who Mark really was. To him, this was just another concerned family member. "Your wife was asked to move inside," Ryan said. "She has been sitting here alone for too long." Mark nodded slowly. "I understand," he replied. "I was away only for a few minutes. I apologize for the delay." He bent down and carefully adjusted the wheels of the chair. With practiced care, he began guiding Lena inside. As they moved, Lena felt safe again. Her breathing relaxed. The tension slowly faded from her body. The people who had stopped around them slowly returned to their own paths. Ryan watched them move away. For a brief second, he felt unsure. Something about Mark's calm strength made him pause. But he shook the thought away and returned to his post. Inside the hospital lobby, Mark guided Lena to a quiet waiting area. He placed her comfortably near a window where soft light entered. He knelt beside her and looked into her eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Lena nodded. "I was worried for a moment," she said. "But I knew you would come." Mark held her hand. "I always will," he said. They did not know that what happened outside was only the beginning of something far deeper. That brief moment near the entrance would soon connect their quiet life to a much larger truth. A truth that would test patience, strength, and honor in ways none of them expected. The hospital lobby felt calm as soft evening light entered through the large windows. Nurses moved from room to room with steady steps. The quiet hum of conversations filled the air. Mark sat beside Lena's wheelchair, making sure she was comfortable after the small tense moment outside. He kept his voice low and gentle whenever he spoke to her. Lena felt better now. Her breathing had settled, and the tired look in her eyes was slowly fading. She looked around at the people passing by, and then returned her gaze to Mark. His presence always made her feel safe. He carried a quiet strength in the way he moved and spoke. Even when he said little, his calmness surrounded her like a warm blanket. "I am all right now," she said softly. Mark touched her hand and nodded. "I am glad. I should not have taken long." The call came at a difficult time. Lena gave a small smile. "It is fine. I know your work is serious." Mark looked away for a moment, as if thinking carefully. He always kept details of his job hidden. Not because he wished to hide from her, but because his role required silence. The safety of many people depended on what he did each day. Only a few trusted officials knew the full truth. To others, he was simply a man who worked with federal investigations. But the real story was far deeper. Before Mark could say anything more, a soft voice called from behind them. "Excuse me, are you both all right now?" They turned to see a nurse standing near them. She was holding a small chart and smiling kindly. "Yes, we are fine," Mark replied. "If you need a private room to rest for a few minutes, we can arrange one," the nurse said. Many expectant mothers feel tired after long checkups. Lena thanked her. "That will be helpful." The nurse led them to a small quiet room with a comfortable chair and soft lighting. Mark helped Lena settle in gently. She rested her head back and closed her eyes for a moment. The room felt peaceful. Mark stood near the window and pulled out his phone. The call he received earlier replayed in his mind. It had come from an unknown number. Only a single line had been spoken before it disconnected. A man with a steady voice had said his name clearly. "Agent Mark, be alert. Something unusual might happen near your family today." No other explanation. No location. No time. The call had ended before he could respond. Mark had received many alerts during his years of service. Most came from verified federal lines. But this one was different. It came without warning or identification. Yet the voice sounded like someone who knew him well. Someone from his past assignments. Someone who had no reason to lie. As Mark stood near the window, he stared at the people outside walking past the hospital. His mind searched for meaning behind the call. He wondered whether the small encounter outside between Lena and the officer had been coincidence or the start of a larger plan. He kept his thoughts silent. He did not want to worry Lena. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on the door. A young doctor stepped inside with a friendly smile. "I am here for a short follow-up," she said. "Is this a good time?" "Yes, please, come in," Lena replied while sitting a bit straighter. The doctor checked her health carefully and spoke in a gentle tone. "Everything seems normal. Rest is very important for you. Stress should be kept as low as possible." Lena nodded and glanced at Mark. He gave her a reassuring smile. After the doctor left, they stayed in the room for a while longer. Lena shared small thoughts about the upcoming baby. She wondered how life would change once the child arrived. She spoke about names, small hopes, and simple dreams. Mark listened with warmth in his eyes. These moments gave him peace far greater than any part of his job. When Lena felt strong enough to move, Mark helped her out of the room and guided her back toward the entrance. The air outside had become cooler. The sky carried a soft evening glow. As they moved closer to the exit, Mark noticed the same officer from earlier, Ryan, standing near the gate. Ryan looked distracted. He seemed to be speaking to someone through his radio and kept glancing around the area. His posture was tense, as if something was troubling him. Mark slowed the wheelchair for a moment. His instincts sharpened. Years of training had taught him how to read body language. Something about the officer's movements felt unusual. Lena noticed the change in Mark's expression. "Is everything fine?" she asked. "Yes," Mark said gently. "I am only being careful." At that moment, Ryan turned his head and saw them approaching. His face changed slightly. Not in anger but in concern. He stepped forward quickly. "Sir, may I speak with you for a moment?" Ryan said with a cautious tone. Mark nodded. "Of course." Ryan glanced at Lena and then lowered his voice. "I want to apologize if my tone earlier caused any stress. That was not my intention. I was trying to follow the rules, but I may have acted too strict." Mark studied Ryan's face. The apology was sincere. "Thank you," Mark said. "I appreciate your honesty." Lena gave a soft smile as well. "I understand you were only doing your duty." Ryan nodded, but his eyes still held uncertainty. There was something else he wanted to say. "I also want to mention something," Ryan continued. "A few minutes after you went inside, I received a message from our station about keeping an extra watch around this hospital today. They did not explain why. They only said unusual activity might occur in the nearby area. I thought I should inform you both as a precaution." Mark felt a light chill in his chest. The warning connected perfectly with the mysterious call he had received earlier. "Thank you for telling me," Mark said with steady calm. "We will be careful." Ryan stepped back. "If you need any assistance while leaving, please let me know." Mark nodded and began guiding Lena toward the car. He helped her settle inside gently before placing the wheelchair in the trunk. As he closed the door, he looked around the area again. He noticed a dark-colored vehicle parked farther away with its windows slightly tinted. The car had been there earlier as well. It had not moved. Mark watched it for a moment before getting into the driver's seat. He drove out of the hospital slowly, staying alert. During the ride, Lena watched him quietly. She could sense that something was on his mind. "Mark, is everything all right?" "Yes," he replied softly. "I just want to make sure you reach home safely." Their house was located on a peaceful street surrounded by tall trees and open lawns. It was a simple place but filled with comfort. Once they reached home, Mark helped Lena inside and guided her to the couch. She relaxed with a warm cup of tea while he checked the doors and windows, making sure everything was secure. The evening moved calmly. The two of them shared dinner, talked about the baby again, and enjoyed the quiet atmosphere. But even during these peaceful moments, Mark's mind kept returning to the warning call. As Lena rested on the couch, Mark finally stepped into the small study room. He closed the door behind him quietly and pulled out his secure device. He entered a code that connected him to the federal communication line. The screen flashed for a moment before showing a message. Enter verification to access classified channel. Mark completed the required steps. Once the system unlocked, he searched for any recent alerts related to his name or to the city hospital. Nothing appeared. No official message matched the call he received. No unusual activity had been reported in any file he had access to. This increased his concern. If the alert did not come from within the system, then it came from someone working off record. Someone with experience. Someone who trusted him enough to warn him directly. Mark leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes for a moment. His thoughts moved through different possibilities. Old cases. Former colleagues. Past assignments. People he had worked with and people he had faced. Anyone from that list could have reasons to warn him or reasons to watch him. He opened his eyes again and studied the window. The outside world looked calm, but quiet danger always hid in places where no one looked. Inside the living room, Lena shifted slightly and placed a hand on her stomach. She felt the baby move gently. A warm smile came to her face. She whispered softly, as if speaking to the child. "Everything will be fine. Your father is here." She trusted Mark completely. She believed he always kept his promise to protect their family. The depth of his care was the foundation of her strength. A few minutes later, Mark returned to the living room. He sat beside her and placed an arm around her shoulder. "Are you comfortable?" he asked. "Yes," she answered. "But you look worried. You can tell me if something is troubling you." Mark hesitated for a moment. He did not want to cause her stress during pregnancy. Still, he believed in honesty with her. "I received a strange call today," he said. "Someone warned me that something unusual might happen around us." Lena looked at him with calm concern. "Did they say what kind of unusual thing?" "No," Mark said. "No details. Just a warning." Lena took a slow breath. "Do you think it has anything to do with your work?" "It might," Mark replied. "I am not sure yet. But I want you to stay careful for the next few days." Lena nodded gently. "You always protect us," she said. "I trust you." Her words brought a soft warmth to Mark's heart. He placed his hand over hers and sat with her in silence for a while. As the night grew deeper, they prepared to rest. Mark double-checked every lock before going to the bedroom. He kept his secure device near him, ready to respond to any message. Lena lay beside him, her breathing calm and steady. The moonlight entered through the curtains and filled the room with soft silver light. Inside his mind, Mark knew one thing for certain. The warning he received was not random. Someone out there was watching. Someone knew that his family was important. Someone had a reason to send that call. And soon, the truth behind it would come forward. He looked at Lena sleeping peacefully and touched her hand carefully. "No matter what happens," he whispered with firm, quiet strength, "I will keep you safe." Outside their house, on a far corner of the street, the same dark-colored vehicle stood under the shadow of a tree. Its engine was off. Its windows were slightly down. The person inside sat still, watching the house quietly. They were waiting. And the night was far from over. The night was quiet outside Mark and Lena's house. The trees moved softly with the cool wind. Streetlights gave a soft yellow glow along the road. Inside the house, the lights were low. Everything looked peaceful. Lena was sleeping on her side, her breathing slow and calm. Mark lay awake beside her. His eyes were open. His mind was alert. He could not forget the warning call. He could not forget the dark vehicle near the hospital and again near their house. Something was not right. His training told him to stay ready even when everything looked calm. Mark moved slowly out of bed, careful not to wake Lena. He stepped into the living room and looked through the front window while staying behind the curtain. The street looked empty. For a moment, he felt relief. Then he saw it. Far near the corner, under the shadow of a tree, the same dark vehicle was still parked. His heart became steady and focused. He did not feel fear. He felt responsibility. This was his home. His family was inside. Whatever danger was near, he would not allow it to come close. He quietly moved to his small study room and picked up his secure device. He entered the code and sent a short silent message to a trusted contact. Possible watch near family home. Sending location. Please verify. He knew help would come if it was needed. But until then, he would stay alert on his own. Mark returned to the living room and sat on a chair near the front door. He kept the house lights low. From time to time, he checked the window. The dark vehicle did not move. Minutes passed. Then an hour passed. Still, the vehicle stayed where it was. Inside the bedroom, Lena turned slightly in her sleep. She placed one hand over her stomach. The baby moved gently. She did not know anything about the car outside. She believed fully that the night was safe. Back on the street, inside the dark vehicle, a man sat quietly. His face was serious. He spoke into a small device with low voice. They are still inside. The house is quiet. The husband is awake and alert. He looks trained. A voice answered softly through the device. Do not make any sudden move. Only observe. We need more confirmation. The man inside the car nodded and stayed still. At the same time, far across the city, two plane vehicles started moving. Inside them were trained officers in simple clothes. They had received Mark's silent message. They trusted him and his judgment. When he said something was wrong, they listened. Back in the house, Mark watched the street again. His phone vibrated softly in his hand. Support moving now. Stay alert. He placed the phone down and waited. After some time, the dark vehicle finally moved. It pulled away slowly from the street corner and drove down the road. Mark did not relax yet. He watched until it disappeared completely. A few minutes later, two plane vehicles passed quietly down the street and stopped near the corner. The trained officers stepped out and looked around. They moved carefully and quickly. Mark opened his front door just enough to step outside. One of the officers saw him and walked closer. We checked the area, the officer said in a calm tone. The dark vehicle left moments ago. We followed it for a few blocks but lost it near the main road. Mark nodded. Thank you for coming fast. The officer looked at the house. Is your family safe? Yes, Mark replied. My wife is sleeping inside. The officer placed a small device in his hand. If you notice anything again, call directly on this. We will keep extra watch tonight. Mark thanked him. The officers left quietly and the street returned to its silent state. Mark stood outside for a moment longer. He looked at the stars above. His chest felt heavy but controlled. Whoever had been watching his house, they now knew he was not alone. They now knew that he was aware. He went back inside and locked the door. Inside the bedroom, Lena was slowly waking up. She felt that Mark was not beside her. Mark, she called softly. He entered the room quickly and sat beside her. I am here, he said gently. You were not in bed, she said with a small worried look. I heard a noise outside and checked, he replied calmly. Was it something bad, she asked. No, Mark said. Everything is fine now. Lena studied his face. She could tell he was hiding something to protect her from stress. You always say everything is fine, she said softly. But sometimes your eyes show something else. Mark smiled gently. My eyes only show how much I care about you. Lena placed her hand over his. I trust you, she said. Mark felt a quiet strength return to his heart. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the quiet street. Birds moved between the trees. Everything looked normal again. The night felt like a distant shadow. Mark helped Lena with her morning routine. They had breakfast together. She laughed over a small thing on the television. For a while, life felt simple again. But inside Mark's mind, the night was not forgotten. Later that day, Mark received a secure message on his device. It came from a trusted senior officer. Unusual watchers connected to an old network, possibly related to your past case. No direct threat found yet. Stay alert, but no need to relocate at this time. Mark read the message twice. Old network. Past case. Years ago, he had led an investigation into a large network that misused trust and power. Many people were exposed. Many lives were changed. Some of those involved had disappeared without trace. He had always known that certain stories never truly ended. Mark kept the message to himself. He did not want Lena to worry. In the afternoon, Lena asked if they could go for a short walk near the garden beside their house. She wanted fresh air. Mark agreed. He helped her into the wheelchair and guided her outside. The sunlight felt warm. The flowers near the fence were in full bloom. The air smelled clean and fresh. As they moved slowly along the garden path, a familiar car approached from the road. It was Ryan, the officer from the hospital. He stopped near their gate and stepped out with a polite smile. "Good afternoon," he greeted. "Good afternoon," Mark replied. "I was nearby and thought to check if you both were doing well after yesterday," Ryan said. Lena smiled. "That is kind of you." "Yes, we are well." Ryan looked relieved. "I am glad. Also, about yesterday, I wanted to thank you for staying calm. Sometimes pressure affects judgment. I learned something from that moment." Mark nodded. "We all learn every day." Ryan hesitated for a second and then spoke again. "I also wanted to inform you that there is extra watch in the area these days. Just routine checks. If you ever feel uncomfortable, you can always reach out." Mark looked at Ryan with thoughtful eyes. He could tell that Ryan sensed there was something more going on but was keeping his words careful. "Thank you," Mark said. Ryan nodded politely and left. As the car drove away, Lena looked at Mark. "People seem extra careful around us lately," she said softly. Mark guided the wheelchair slowly. "Sometimes life becomes extra careful too," he replied with a gentle smile. That evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, Lena sat by the window with Mark beside her. They talked about simple things. The baby. The future. The small room they were preparing for the child. Mark listened and smiled. For him, these moments were not small. They were everything. Later that night, while Lena rested, Mark sat alone for a few minutes and wrote a short message on his secure device. Family safe. Situation calm. Staying alert. He sent it and placed the device away. Days passed. No strange vehicle returned. No unusual movement appeared near the house. Life slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm. Mark stayed alert but did not allow fear to rule their home. One evening, Lena sat with a warm blanket around her shoulders. She looked at Mark with deep eyes. "Mark," she said softly, "no matter what your work brings into our life, I never regret walking this path with you." Mark felt his chest tighten with emotion. "I promise you, Lena," he said. "No shadow from my past will ever touch our future." She smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. Outside their house, the street lights turned on one by one. The night arrived quietly. But this time, the darkness carried no watchful eyes. Far away, the old network that once moved in shadows was now broken into pieces. The silent watchers had learned that some lines should never be crossed. Some families should never be touched. Inside the house, a husband and a wife rested peacefully. Their child moved softly inside the warmth of safety. The storm that almost reached their door had turned away. And in the quiet strength of trust and care, their future stood protected.